because of trial and error processes, and because, you know, I mean, why are there laws? Because not everybody is willing to do what's right for themselves or others. So there's laws because some people are willing to put other people in harm's way. So you're like, no. So we're either going to try to prevent you from doing that by saying this is a consequence, and if you don't want the consequence, don't do it. And then the people that are going to break laws no matter what end up suffering the consequence, and that's not as good as not doing it, but it is at least saying, you know, you're out of society for a little while because you're like messing with people, you know, like, and I get the whole sort of like victimless crime theories and things like that, but I think that's a scary concept for people.
You mean ending victimless crime?
Okay, well, I haven't heard this.
Yeah, ending, because like, I mean, obviously like a huge premise of free staters in this area is marijuana is not bad for you, it should be legalized, you should be able to do it wherever, whenever, however you want to. And you come to a state, or not you come to a state, but like the free staters have planted into a state that will not even consider at this point medicinal marijuana laws.
Well, yeah,
regardless of doing it for recreational purposes. So I think, you know, you need to focus in that whole fight. The legalization for medicinal purposes has got to come first. If that's not solid, then the recreational purposes is not going to happen. I don't smoke it. I don't like to smoke it. I think it's a waste of time and money. My personal opinion. On the flip side of that, it's probably the lesser evil of all the drugs that you can ingest.
Could you at least tell me the name
but
of the radio
is it a smart thing to do
program?
on a daily basis, especially? Probably not. Will it help people with certain ailments? Yes, it will.
Yeah.
But that's a fine line. What? Many ailments. Many ailments. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm really trying to research into that because it sounds so wonderful, but cancer is very complex. Cancer is very... However, I would attest to the fact that it is helpful in creating an appetite, suppressing nausea for people who are going through cancer treatment.
Someone who had dementia or I don't know, something pretty serious. He's quite a bit older, but he used THC oil, and he had like seizures a lot too. And after one of those, he'd turn all white and be really antisocial. But like when he was on his medication, he was fine. He didn't have seizures at all. Had a lot more of a social life.
It's just sort of...
Do you see cannabis prohibition as like a contributing factor to the popularity of spice?
You know, I don't. I actually see the spice being legal as being the reason that it is being utilized because it's not detectable.
To an extent, I do know people that smoke weed and spice, and they just enjoy that it gets you so much more messed up than weed.
It gets you so much. I think it's very sad to equate it to marijuana. It is not a marijuana high.
It does not. Someone else is saying
it's not
synthetic marijuana.
It's not synthetic marijuana. It's called synthetic marijuana because it attacks the same receptors in your brain that THC is supposed to, but it does it like at like 2,000 times the rate of that.
I think they just associate it with that because the random plant matter, the chemicals are put on. Like, oh, it's leafy. It kind of sort of looks like weed, so it's like fake pot, right?
Well, and it's supposed to affect the reactors that THC, I mean, and it does, but it does it in a much more concentrated way, so you get this much stronger high from it, and then you get these unknown, weird, odd side effects from it because it's chemicals that are sprayed on this whatever generic plant matter, and it's not ever the same kind of amount from batch to batch.
Really?
No, it's not regulated, obviously. So it's not like we put a pinch of this and a dash of that. It's like we spray this with, and so you could get a higher concentration of these chemicals. You don't know what sort of mix you're getting, and I think that is probably what is creating side effects in some people and lesser in others, and then really bad ones in some. I mean, people have committed suicide after smoking the synthetic type of...
The down salts were a lot worse, honestly. But...
The synthetic marijuana has caught up to the down.
Oh, I know. Like, the dreaded, that was... Like,
and now they have the dreaded too, which is worse than the dreaded. So...
No, I don't. Well, then, they have a lot of...
You know, I think some people, you get this high and you don't have those effects, but I've talked to pretty significant amount of people
Yeah, but
that,
you were saying it was
whether or
okay.
not the effects are very long lasting, they are at least last for several hours, and this would include convulsions and seizures and
Oh, are you talking about the after effects of it or the high from it?
not the high from it.
That
No,
lasted 15.
no, not the high from it. And the other problem with it is that people are overdosing on it because you're trying to smoke it like you smoke marijuana. And marijuana will sort of hit you.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure you passed the brickyard at some point
and-
last summer.
The mature thing
We're out there every day smoking this joint all day long. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I mean, one hit of that will have you more fucked up than I've ever been. And these kids were out there smoking like once back
I
to
would
back.
say the biggest
It's actually, I've talked to people in the mental health unit here, and I've talked to people in Phoenix House, and they are seeing, users, longer term users, presenting with catatonic sort of states that they are not recovering from, like seriously not recovering from. So that is why I am trying to get it off of the store shelves in this town, because it's false advertising. The people that are marketing it and making it do not care that it's hurting people. They care that they're making a lot of money off of it. It's cheaper to get than marijuana. They have a huge markup on it. And they're not doing the right thing. So why are we trying to ban it? Because they're not doing the right thing. If someone doesn't do the right thing that's damaging people, like really hurting people, then that's why you have a law created. Because you're being an ass. So now we have a law. You know?
You were telling me
What really bothers me is that when Rich Paul was on trial for 81 years of his life for selling cannabis, that stuff probably made well over $700 that time. At the end of the day, he went home and he doesn't have anything to worry about getting his door kicked in.
like we're
There's a reason it's so much cheaper than cannabis, and that's because cannabis is illegal. Like, if cannabis was legal, it would cost the same as like a head of lettuce. You could get like enough for a month for 99 cents.
I don't know.
Have you done any research with like California and like with Colorado especially, because it's like just brand new?
Colorado's a really
They're
good
having some
example of why
problems,
civil
but they're having some
disobedience
problems.
works. I haven't heard about that, but in Colorado, I watched something about their process of getting it legalized, and there were people, like 2,000 people a day at 420 rallies there. I guess the mayor was even there. Like, they didn't make it. I mean, I'm sure some people sent letters to the editor in Congress and called their representatives, but they made that happen through civil disobedience.
In terms of legalizing that.
Yeah, in Colorado. I don't know what it was like in Washington, but Colorado was massive disobedience around that.
Yeah, and even though no cannabis, it looks like it's going to be a really wimpy marijuana medical bill that's going to pass this year. There were 2 legalization bills. There've never been 2 legalization bills before the House before. There was a decrim bill, and medical marijuana bill, and a hemp bill.
There's more activity, definitely. There's more activity, but like the one was just shot down again. Decriminalizing was just shot down, and but
Vermont just passed it.
Vermont just passed it.
So, like, as the surrounding states start, as things start to change and the tide starts to shift, I mean, New Hampshire's just going to have to catch up.
I mean, there might be a shift in tide in that. I think that when you compare it to what other drugs do that are illegal, do I think it should be in the same class as cocaine and heroin? No.
What, spice
Well,
or weed?
No, weed, marijuana, regular.
Cocaine is considered to have medicinal value according to the U.S. government, so
Well,
marijuana is not.
I know, and that's why it's in. I mean, because of its. I mean, you know the history of it, so it sort of has its place in the class because it was recognized, associated with bad behaviors, with no medicinal purposes, and a high propensity for abuse. So, and I think probably because it's something that if you smoke it every day, it's very obvious when people usually are smoking it, or it's not like.
Depends on the person.
It does depend. I agree. It does depend on the person, but it's something that's like it's a lot more open.
I mean, there's some people that can smoke weed every day of the week and still be functioning, productive individuals.
There are, and then there's some that can't.
And there's some people that smoke less than that. Yeah.
So I mean, it's an interesting topic, and I am like, I would have been adamantly against, even 5 years ago. I would have been, not 5, maybe 10 years ago. I would have been adamantly against legalizing it because everybody that I've ever hung out with that were smoking it used to just drive me crazy because I'm like, you're so
I get
sluggish
far more
and
annoyed
so
by drunks.
whatever. So
I mean, I don't think alcohol should be made illegal, but drunk people are far worse than stoners.
Do you think that
It's just, I think that you're gonna have to expect that you might get arrested if you're doing something illegal, even if you don't like that it's illegal, or even if you're trying to, in legitimate ways, getting it legalized. It's like putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah, well, my biggest issue with the drug war, like, beyond cannabis being something that I think is pretty much harmless, as long as you're not, like, abusing it or letting it become abusive. The drug war itself, the idea that possession of an object can be a crime, like, with regular crime, like, there's a process, like, due process, and, like, if, let's say, a cop finds a murder weapon in your car, they have to connect that murder weapon to a murder and, like, have evidence that makes beyond the mere possession of that thing illegal. Anyone could have planted it there, any sort of thing like that. So there needs to be like a chain of evidence. With the drug war, it's like an object is just a crime, and like anywhere it could be used as a crime. And like these narcotics divisions of the police departments are so easy to get corrupted because they can just carry around crimes with them and drop them on anybody. And it's such a power to have that like the idea of a thing just being somewhere is illegal. Like not anything based on proving intent or like any of the standard things that like goes along with crime. But,
well, in terms of like the paraphernalia, it's just an ordinance. You're not going to get, if you have clearly the intent of a pipe is to smoke marijuana from it or spice. It's not for tobacco. You don't see people walking around smoking tobacco out of a glass pipe. So if you have one, but if you have one that has no resin in it, you're not going to get in trouble. You're not going to be breaking an ordinance. But if it has resin in it, then clearly it's been used for smoking marijuana, and then that ties you to that use.
Is there a victim?
Well,
yeah, it's like, why should the officer care if a pipe is clean or dirty? Like, how does it affect anyone else?
well, they care because it is illegal, and that's their job.
And as soon as it's not illegal, then they won't care anymore. But until that, like, whether or not they know it's right or wrong, they'll still just do it blindly because that's the way it is.
Well, when there is a law, you have to follow it if you don't want to get in trouble. If you don't want to suffer the consequences of that law.
I mean, there's plenty of laws. Like, there's plenty of laws that I don't like openly disobey that I disobey and I haven't been arrested for. I mean,
well, and I think that's across the board that's gonna happen. But marijuana is one of those things that sticks out. It stands out, and it is something that people tend to overuse, and not just use like every now and then. And people.
Yeah, I don't know many people who smoke weed that don't smoke close to every day.
Close to every day. That was always my thing with it. I'm like, it's a lot of money. It's annoying. Just, I'm not a substance person, so I don't think like that. I don't think like that. But then there's many people in the world that are very experimental, very like to sort of like experiment with altered states. I'm not that kind of person, So to talk to people like me, you can't say, oh, well, it's totally fine, and even if you smoke it all day long, like it's totally cool. Like, what? I don't understand that. Because
I don't really see any problem with someone smoking all day, every day, as long as they're continuing to be productive.
Being productive is positive, a good thing, important.
Like I wasn't alive, but my parents tell me when they were much younger, smoking was a lot more prolific. Like people would smoke cigarettes all the time.
Right.
And it wasn't.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't a law that changed people's minds. It was them understanding, like, hey, this is a really bad substance. You should not smoke. It's gonna be bad for you. So maybe a better approach. I think you guys are talking about the spice issue, right? Is to tell people like, hey, this is a bad substance. Maybe it won't be as immediate as the law, but.
That's a part of it. I think that you can't sort of go at any problem with a one-way solution. I don't think it's only educating people, or it's only coming to the city to get sort of get backing from that, or it's only banning it, or whatever. You have to sort of do an approach that's going to sort of deal with many different facets of an issue. So you can say this is really bad for you. This is really bad, and we're told. I mean, our group is certainly going. We're, getting the word out that it's not a good idea.
I mean, even if you make something illegal, though, people will still, and then change the activity, like prohibitions and ways that they'll move underground versus dangerous. Like that stuff is much more dangerous than manufacturers. Alcohol.
Yeah,
we don't have much gang violence in drug wars. You go to Manchester and
we only really have to interview like one person.
that's something that's only because they're giving the opportunity to sell drugs. People would want to use it and just get it and just buy it.
Well, you know, I don't think spice is a good thing per se.
I mean, I'm still going to be on there, but I don't
think you
want to
just
slip
go to
that
jail
dude in the
for it, I guess.
background.
Well, Cass is making his living off of to the detriment of other people.
Yeah, but some people during Prohibition said that about liquor stores. Well, that's a liquor store that the state of the future is running out.
Yeah, I think though, to me,